write the DBQ, and what I have is not scans but pictures. My scanner wasn't working, and I took photographs of what I'd written, which is actually the best way to do it, because those of you that choose to handwrite your DBQ, this is what your pictures may look like, which ain't very good. So once again, please type, if at all possible, this DBQ. Alrighty. Okay, folks, I'm going to go through now and show you the context writing and show me writing the intro. The intro is shown here. I don't know if it's a little long, but context could be a little bit better. But, you know, it's always easier to judge after you're done. So as you can see, it's kind of hard to read this. This is just merely photographs, and this is what it would look like if you were to photograph yours, although you guys are much better at taking pictures of notes and things like that. I even tried to lighten it a little bit. So here we go. I've got a clock up there, by the way, to show you how much time I'm spending on this. Of course, I'm spending more time because I'm talking out loud, but it gives you an idea of the kind of time that you should spend. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to work on my context. Now, I'm not making a rough draft here, but I'm thinking in my context, okay? I'm going to open with the Civil War, maybe slavery a little bit, and then talk about what Reconstruction was, or was hoped to be. And I'm going to go through the context there. Alright, so let me start writing here. Okay, between 1861 and 1865, the United States was torn by a bitter civil war. That's something pretty general. Nobody can disagree with that. During the war, as southern states were conquered or liberated, depending on your point of view, efforts were made to reconstruct them. Now, what do I mean by reconstruction? That is to readmit and change them. Could use better words there, Bob. And end slavery. As well as. And protect the former slaves. Okay, I just thought of something I can use. I can mention the Freedmen's Bureau. Which you seldom do. Okay, it's something I can talk about. Evidence. Now, obviously, it's taking me a lot longer to talk my way through this than if I were doing this in my brain. But, okay, here's Reconstruction. So, I don't know if I'm doing a good enough job on context here. I could have gone back a little bit further and talked about conditions of slavery. Initially, under Lincoln and his successor, Johnson, southern states had an easy Reconstruction. Now, I should qualify that by requiring only a few to declare
and offering easy amnesty.
Now this might also work for context because this is during the war, at least the Lincoln part. Oil that chair, Bob.
Eventually,
Really,
Congress
oil that chair.
Stepped in, dissatisfied, and wrote stronger laws.
Enacted would be a better word.
To improve life and protect the freedmen. And since I use that term, I'll put former slaves by it so they'll know that I know what it means. And protect the freedmen or former slaves. This is where I put my thesis in there. Although some progress was made. And and once you've got your thesis, I know you might change your mind, but don't do so. Although some progress was made in the South during Reconstruction, you can change it now that you've looked at it, giving the vote and allowing freedmen
changing the wording of the thesis, not the
to
thesis
hold
itself.
office. Reconstruction should be considered, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, a major failure.
Yeah, you're giving the
And this may be what I believe or not believe, but it's what I have the evidence to prove. Okay, in my mind, I think Reconstruction did the right thing and tried to do the right thing. It just ultimately failed. But I'm going to go out on a limb and be stronger and say something here. Reconstruction would be considered a major failure in the long run as well. Well, I'm not going to say the long run. Should be considered a failure during the years. I can come back and then say my point of view at the end here and give some credit to Reconstruction that's outside of the time period. Reconstruction should be considered made during the years 1865 to 1877. Because I didn't really give you what I was going to talk about.
In my original
because
thesis.
Many of the things, I know I hate to use that term things, but many of the promises made were broken. And states, southern states, returned African Americans into a state similar, and in some cases worse than slavery.
Okay, so I should have actually then added some other things here where I mentioned, like, because of the black codes, because of voter intimidation or voter regulation, things like that, to give the reasons why it failed. So that could hurt my thesis score a little bit, or hopefully not, but there you go. So make sure you signpost what you're going to talk about and be specific, because it shows that you did that planning. All right. Okay, folks, so now I'm going to actually write the 2 or 3 body paragraphs, try to include one for the complexity if possible, if I don't have time and do that, and hopefully have some time for a conclusion. And the conclusion, I could maybe address complexity, talk about what happened in the future. I could also, if necessary, put my thesis there if I hadn't put anywhere else. And you see I've got a timer up there. I spent about 8 minutes on the intro, and that was including talking. So I just kind of want you to see the time.
Okay, now I'm going to go into my first paragraph here. I'm going to try to have a topic sentence. And what I want to talk about here is maybe some of the good things. I mean, this is for the complexity, or I can say it for the end. Yes. What could I do? Maybe I'll say complexity down here. I can talk about things like the vote, slavery. I can mention women. Things definitely didn't improve for women.
I should have done this when I was doing my
I could
planning.
even bring that into complexity if I want to, and talk about how for women in the South, white women as well as black, things did not improve a whole lot. Okay, so I can talk about the vote, I can talk about slavery, I can talk about complexity. Okay, do that. Okay, ending slavery. Okay.
That was me trying to get a bug, y'all.
Although, and if you want to bring up the Emancipation Proclamation, but remember it doesn't technically free slaves because most are still in the South, which is fighting. Although the 13th Amendment ended slavery, in many ways, conditions returned to something like slavery.
Could say approaching slavery. Would sound better.
By enactments such as the Black Codes. Okay, I'm going to put page 1 just so I remember. Page 2 up there in the corner. Notice I'm skipping lines so I can add something to it. Alright, these codes limited the freemen in travel, in job choice, gun ownership, and many others. I mean, I go on for a lot of them. Things. Now, that first document that we had here, Black Code number 1, document 1 about the, a Louisiana Black Code basically forces freemen,
watch that camera,
to get a job or not be able to travel within the parish or not be able to travel within the parish or to have a home.
Should we have a, see, I wrote home
violation
instead of a room. have a home
can
without permission.
result in imprisonment.
Should be violation could result.
Well, really not imprisonment. Can result in forced labor or a fine. I mean, I could do a better job talking about it, but basically that's what it's talking about. You can't own land. You can work. You have to work. So this is basically a return to slavery,
Could get rid of the
if not worse, because the master has no responsibility to feed, clothe, or shelter the person. So basically I'm saying this document and these black codes really made things worse, okay? African Americans, or freedmen, became subject to terrorist. Okay, now I'm going to bring out inside info. Okay. Bring up the KKK. Subject to terrorist like the Ku Klux. And I can mention them later when I'm talking about the vote. African Americans became subject to terrorists like the Ku Klux Klan. And because of black codes, we're not able to testify against them.
Okay, you should say against the Klan.
Or serve on juries when the Klan
Or any
was
white
on
person.
trial. Okay, so all of these things. Oh, and I didn't even mention the beatings. Okay, could result in forced labor, a fine, or beatings. And the beatings really gets to me because that's what the corporal punishment is. Because basically, I mean, it's like slavery all over again. Okay, so I talked about the black codes. That's one thing, and I'm limiting what I'm talking about here. Okay, so we got that one done. All right. The 15th Amendment was a broken or a delayed promise as well. Now, if I can find that.
Have those documents around, y'all. Wasting time by having to find them.
Now, this would be a chance to bring up Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass,
There was thunder outside when I was
in
doing
his Atlantic, and you underline Atlantic because it's a magazine, it's an Atlantic article, worried, and I'm trying to get the description point here, worried quite correctly that states, southern states, would ignore Washington or Congress's instructions. Which they often did with things like the Black Code. As a result, fear that white Democrats
should be capitalized, y'all. Oil that chair.
would return as a result, fear that white Democrats would undo any positive changes resulted in the radical Republicans passing the 15th Amendment. This gave black
should be gave, not gaves.
males, underline males, although it left out black and white females. The right to vote.
Okay, so it's good to mention that. Could have gotten into that more as sort of a thing to show it wasn't
Document.
just black males that suffered, but black females and white females did not benefit them.
Alrighty, here's the amendment. Okay. This act shown in document 4 mentions I could mention here that the fact that it does not show or does not include women, I could have used that and talked about it. It says it right. It includes race, color, previous condition of servitude. I could have used that and said, but what is missing is sex or gender. This act shown in document 4 mentions that Congress has the power to enforce this. However, for many years during Reconstruction and after, because this continues on into the 50s and 60s, and some would say even continues to this day, groups like the Klan turned away or intimidated African American voters, or created biased literacy test, poll taxes.
Could mention what that was.
Literacy tax, poll taxes to keep them from actually being able to exercise this right. Okay, so I've mentioned that. I'm kind of through with that document. I don't know if I used it as well as I could have, but I'm through with that document. I've mentioned the Frederick Douglass and his fear here. I don't know if I've mentioned it good enough. This might be the document that I'm, a little less certain in using, but I did mention it, and maybe I can get a point for that. Okay, there's a long one there as well. And that leaves me with document 5. African Americans did earn, along with the vote, African American men did get the right to hold office. As document 5 reveals.
Reveals is a good word to use, y'all. Boil that chair, come on.
Senators, many were elected to local, state, and even federal office. Many were elected to a state or federal office. As document 5 shows or reveals, Hiram Revels.
Oh, it could have done a pun there. Revels.
A senator.
I should mention that he was black. Maybe that's assumed, but
and
nice to do it.
Was sworn in to office into that office in 1870. The New York Times,
underline New York Times, it's the name of a magazine.
Even though a northern paper seems surprised that a person of color could be as dignified as he was. Revealing bias in all parts
could have said prejudice
of the country at the time. Revealing negative bias in all parts of the country at the time.
Watch that camera.
Though it does express admiration. And I just remember, man, I've left out the document with the picture. Oh, yeah. Man. Okay, though it does express admiration for him.
Pictures available, y'all.
African American men, however,
Should be men, not man.
soon found without large numbers of troops
Should say Northern or Union troops, y'all.
and without large numbers of troops, they could not keep the vote, keep enjoying the vote or holding office for long. Almost none would be elected after Reconstruction.
Not very good writing of Reconstruction there, Bob. Okay, page 7. Almost done. Woo!
Okay, I'm out of paper. Wow. Okay. Document, or page 7. Now I need to find the picture. Document 3.
It was upside down, y'all.
Document 3, the NAS cartoon. Reveals the 3 groups
You like that reveals, don't you? Come up with another word.
that kept Reconstruction from being the success it might have been. Nast, a German immigrant who despised both the Irish and Democrats, who depended on their votes, shows immigrants, former Confederate veterans
Did get their right back to vote, I
who
should put.
did get their right to vote, and wealthy capitalists using their financial resources, I'll put ample financial resources, would work to end prematurely Reconstruction, guaranteeing its failure.
Okay. Last big real page.
Okay, now I may have done enough in this to get complexity. I don't know. So I'm going to go to my conclusion and try to get the complexity point in there. Although Reconstruction temporarily improved conditions for black men by letting them
black or African American
hold office or letting them vote and even hold office. These were short-lived. Terrorism and Northern supported Democrats,
could even say, you know,
and we'll also say the American people. American people who gave up and tired. And we can kind of understand that they fought this war. They lost 800,000 people, North and South, spent a fortune. They tired of Reconstruction. They wanted to go back to things being normal again, kind of like we want to go back to pre-corona world. And African Americans were the victims of that, who gave up and tired of Reconstruction.
I could have specified Northern Democrats.
Terrorism and Northern Short Democrats, I'm sure we gave Reconstruction.
American people, kind of broad.
Made diminished those gains. Now I'm going to go talk about the future here. However, Reconstruction, though a failure at the time,
I wrote had time. It should be at the time. So make
did,
sure you
quote, set the stage for future changes. The African American civil rights movement, as well as the women's movement, would follow up.
Roll that chair, Bob.
And complete this revolution. We'll follow and complete this revolution by getting past Civil Rights Acts and Voting Rights Acts.
You could say in the 1960s. That maybe we'll get the complexity point.
Okay.
It's about the future.
I'd say it's done. I spend a few minutes and read over it. Okay. Not really very happy with what I did. It's okay. It ain't great. Okay, but it's what I can do best. All right. I can look back at this thing, complexity. I hope I did.
Alrighty, folks. So, you know, that's when I kind of go over it and I look at it. And the last thing we'll do, and I won't do it on this one, it's late and I want to get this uploaded, is I will go through and try as unbiased as I can to grade it using the rubric. And it's something else you guys could do. If you could sit through this ridiculously long thing, I think I might get an Academy Award for this video for most boring video ever, or film, in the entire history of the world. Yeah, it's that bad. So, next time, I'll score my DBQ using the rubric from Tom Ritchie. And here's that rubric. And with that, y'all, I bid you farewell for the day. Thank you.